But the Ministries of Trade, Employment and Labour Relations are developing a monitoring mechanism to enforce the adherence of safety protocols at workplaces. This follows revelation by the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabuaje, that workplaces are becoming the breeding grounds for the infection in recent times. Now, Ghana's COVID-19 case stands at 15,472 with 95 deaths. He says some media houses, mining companies are seeing more of the cases.
I may not be able to, on the issue of the number of institutions and the number of people affected in the institutions. Yes, I think it's a great worry, as has been said, and most of our current cases have come from that area, and that's why we've been working hard to ensure that these things are applied. I may not be able to give you the total numbers because some are small. They are quite a lot. We have them in our minds. We've got some oil and gas companies that have been affected. We've got some other areas of some government agencies have also been had fallen to some of these things, and even some media houses has also had such outbreaks. And so, but the most important thing is how do we apply some of these protocols to ensure that, because you see, moving from your house into that area definitely means that it poses a threat, because it's like you may go to a place where you have about 200 people working. That's in a sense a crowd. But the way you organize yourself in such a way that you apply the social distancing and avoiding grouping, as the minister has outlined, will help us to reduce these things.
Now, Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen outlined the measures to reduce the spread at workplaces, including steps being taken to enforce compliance.
We are also proposing enhanced restrictions, which we believe are critical if we want to keep our industrial establishments safe. Number one, stop employees with mild or low-grade fever from coming to work and seek medical care. Stagger work schedules by breaking the workforce into shifts. It's not every factory or industrial establishment that currently uses a shift system. But now it is absolutely critical that you find one way or the other to shift your workers around. Then limit in-house meetings as much as possible and use online conference platforms. If unavoidable, sitting arrangements should follow social distance protocols. If you don't have a meeting room or a conference room that is large enough to contain all your workers, then obviously it means that online meetings would probably be the best way out. And then employers should allow staff to work virtually if possible. Obviously, with most industrial establishments, you need to be on the shop floor. But particularly for administrative staff, it should be possible for you to have them work virtually. And then factories, enterprises with more than 29 employees are required to provide a registered nurse on site. If our factories and our industries are not practicing these measures, they are required to practice these measures now. And that is the important message that we are carrying across today. And we want our factories also to implement an anti-stigma policy. No employee should be discriminated against, stigmatized, or be sacked because they have tested positive to the COVID-19 pandemic or infection. Employees must engage the services of experts to provide psychological and emotional support for those who are infected and also for their families. And then employers must also ensure that the workplace confidentiality for employees is strictly observed. You don't want to destabilize your own organization because one person has become infected. And we want Our industries and factories also to carry out periodic fumigation of premises and their machines and equipment. And industries and factories with more than 29 employees must dedicate at least one room within the factory premises as a holding room to immediately house or quarantine anyone who is suspected to be showing symptoms and signs of infection.
And Mr. Chairmanton has also been given updates on the production of PPEs by local companies for onward free distribution.
To date, we produced 6.2 million face masks. Our target is by the end of July this year we would have produced 14.6 million face masks just from these local producers. And then we produced 90,000 hospital gowns, 90,000 head covers which go with the gowns, and then 60,000 medical scrubs. You see the ones that the nurses wear top and bottom. Now the average daily production of these face masks, that's combining the three, is about 250,000. You know, our tailors and seamstresses, maybe ideally they could only sew 5 or 10 at most a day.
Now, on the global front, the WHO is warning that hospitals are facing a shortage of oxygen concentrators needed to support the breathing of COVID-19 patients who are suffering from respiratory distress. According to the organization, 1 million new cases of coronavirus are confirmed worldwide each day. Director General of the WHO, Tedros Ghebreyesus, says the demand is currently outstripping supply. Hello again, I'm Edesmino. Let's settle for the details now. Now, there was confusion between the NDC and the AG's office in court today over whether or not the Supreme Court has granted the NDC's request for the old voters' ID card to be included in the compilation of a new voters register, while lawyers of both parties waited for the court at the court premises for the written order of the courts. The General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, told the media the Supreme Court had ruled in the party's favor. Listen.
Which has granted our request for the inclusion of the existing voter card as breeder document for the compilation of the register. And I think that we are most grateful. We think that this is the most substantive issue for which we came to court. So we will get back to office and we will address a full-blown press conference on the consequential matters arising.
But how does this make you feel, General?
Well, we feel vindicated because the court itself, in an earlier ruling, has clearly stated that the possession of an existing voter's ID card means that the holder is a citizen of Ghana who is qualified to be registered and to exercise his or her powers. And so the court couldn't have gone back on its own earlier ruling. And it did also admit that the right to vote, once it accrues to a person, cannot be taken back in a whimsical and capricious manner in which the Electoral Commission sought to do. So we want to thank you very much, and we'll get back to you when we are in office. The court has just
What we know is that the Electoral Commission has been given the go-ahead to compile the register. We'll return to the court shortly. We'll speak to our correspondent, Joseph Akable, and bring you some legal perspective on this as well, on exactly what the court means in the reliefs it grants. Now, let's go back to the courts now and bring you some interview on the Supreme Court's verdict today as far as the compilation of a new voters register is concerned. We're joined on the phone by private legal practitioner Martin Pebu for some more analysis on this Before then, let's speak to court correspondent Joseph Akabley. Joseph, you earlier reported that the court granted relief 2 and 3 of the NDC's relief they sought of the court. Bring us more detail on that.
And so, Ernest, relief 2 specifically makes the point that the power of the EC to compile and review the voters' register must be exercised subject to the respect for and the protection of the right to vote. And so the court held that indeed the EC must, in carrying out its mandate, it must respect and protect the right to vote. Relief 3 has to do with the fact that the court says the issuance of a voter identification card to a person gives the person that right, which the court has already stated earlier. And so those were the 2 reliefs that were granted. In terms of the orders, after the court gives a decision, they make orders. So the orders that the court made, the court said that the register should be compiled in accordance with CI 126. Now, the AG's office holds the view that CI 126 excludes the existing voter's ID card and birth certificate as well. And so that is it's a victory for them. But the NDC disagrees. And so we spoke to the General Secretary of the party, John Selesio, who says this is a victory for the party. As I speak to you now, lawyers for both sides at the court premises, they put an application for a copy of the decision of the court, and that is the order that we are all waiting for in order to get that clarity that we hope will settle this disagreement on what exactly should happen going forward. But the clarity is that indeed the commission has the power to carry out the compilation of the new voters register. That's not in doubt at all.
And so just for emphasis, Joseph, we know that the EC has been given the go-ahead to compile the register. What we are not sure of is whether or not they can do so with the existing voters' ID and a birth certificate as a proof of nationality or identification, which the NDC is asking the court to compel the EC to do.
That is the case, Ernest. But we need to emphasize that the court's order was specific that the exercise should be carried out in accordance with CI 126. That is not in doubt at all. And so it's an issue of both sides disagreeing on that, but they are hoping that once they get the order, there is an order from the court.
Thank you very much, Joseph Akabley. Here's our man in court, bringing us all the detail from the Supreme Court today. Let's go to the other line now. Lawyer Martin Tibu joins us with some more education on this. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on News Today. Now, the court says that the EC can go ahead to do this, but in accordance with CI 166, and we know that that CI does not have, as part of the document you can use to prove your nationality or identity, the voter's ID, the existing voter's ID, and birth certificate. Should we take it as that the EC has sided, the Supreme Court has sided with the Electoral Commission?
No, my brother, at least from the little I've read, I thought some of the relief the NDC sought were granted. That especially when somebody is being registered and issued a card, that right to vote should not be arbitrarily taken away, which would mean that their own voter's card can be used. So you know what? If this is still creating a confusion, let's wait. The type orders will be delivered soon. Then we all can read in black and white what the Supreme Court ruled. Because I would be surprised that we've been told that their own voter's card cannot be passed. No, that's not it. Especially when there are previous Supreme Court decisions there, Abu Ramadan case, where they said the voter's ID card is prima facie evidence of the right to vote.
And
yes.
It's very interesting that the court goes ahead to say that the EC must go ahead with the compilation of the register, but do so in accordance with law, but also says that the compilation must be done with regards to the CI which is available, and that creates a bit of a confusion there. We usually do not see this happening in court, do we?
It happens once in a while. You remember in 2016, they said that this issue about deletion of the name, it created some confusion, the Abu Ramadan case. So they had to go back to court for a clarification of the order. So every now and then, these confusions arise. But in terms of compiling this new register, I have stated it over and over. Look, a lot of us are truly scared. With this COVID, I don't see myself appearing in any line to register to vote. No, there's no way. We want to take such a risk.
And just before you go, it's a race against time, really. The EC has set a date, which is June 30. If there's the need for the lawyers to go back to court, do you see the Supreme Court fast-tracking this process to clarify this? Is it going to take a bit of a time, or it's just a simple matter of putting in a request and having the court speak in a much clearer language and terms?
As soon as they put in a request for a clarification, it will be done quickly. Yes, considering that time is of the essence.
Thank you very much. That's private legal practitioner Martin Pebu joining us there with some education on what is happening. We await the written orders of the court. Hopefully that will bring some more clarity to the directives given by the Supreme Court today on the very important issue of the compilation of a voters' register. Health and Nutrition Officer at the UNICEF, Dr. Priscilla Wabil, has said 94% of children aged between 1 and 14 experience some form of violent discipline. She said out of this figure, 17% receive severe punishment, such as slapping a child on the face, head, or ears, and beating a child hard repeatedly. Dr. Wabil also said almost 9 out of 10 children, representing 89%, are psychologically abused at the hands of caregivers. We can listen to him as he spoke to my colleague in the northern region, Martina Bugui.
Speaking at an engagement with traditional and religious leaders on COVID-19 awareness creation and child protection, Dr. Wabil mentioned physical attacks, rape, child marriage, and psychological abuse, among others, as some of the violent discipline children go through in Ghana.
In Ghana, 94% of children aged 1 to 14 years experience some form of violent discipline. Out of this number, 17%, that's about 1 out of every 5 children in Ghana, receive what is termed as severe punishment through hitting, slapping the child on the face, the head, slapping the head or the ears, hitting or beating a child hard and repeatedly. Psychological aggression is also common. Almost 9 out of 10 are psychologically abused at the hands of their caregivers. You may be shouting at them, yelling, screaming at them, as well as calling them offensive names such as dumb or lazy.
Dr. Wabil said rape assessment conducted by UNICEF on violence and abuse at home during COVID-19 in May revealed 32%, mostly adolescents, suffered financial and economic abuse.
There was an assessment conducted by UNICEF in May 2019 looking at violence and then abuse at home. And 32% of those who responded, these were adolescents and young people. They said that they had seen and observed abusive or violent behavior in their families in the past 2 months. This was done in May, so that means between March and April they had observed that, and they said it had been increasing. The forms of abusive behavior they mentioned were financial and economic abuse, meaning that maybe they need money to buy some basic needs and they don't get that.
The acting director, Department of Children, Florence Eyisi-Kote, said there have been increased cases of violence against children per the 2017 assessment carried out by the department.
The most common abuse that we receive the report on is the issue of physical. People beat children, and that is going overboard is the most one. And then sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is very rampant. We have intercepted also incidents of child marriage and female genital mutilation, but they don't come as high as we want the issue of sexual and physical abuse that are reported to children. So those are the issues that really are coming up. And I also want to stress, it's not about the cases that are received, but the cases that are not received and we are hiding them. That's the main thing that we need to do. And that's why we say that if you prevent it from happening, then these cases will not come to us. So we need as parents to be vigilant, and we shouldn't be part of the abuse. Rather, should be ones that protect our children from being abused. So we need to work together, ensure there's prevention, because prevention is what we are aiming for. But when the case happens, especially when it's sexual, please report to the police. It shouldn't be settled at home.
And it's news today with me, and it's now time for business. And Daryl Call has the details. He joins us from home. Hello, Daryl. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you're doing great as well.
Well, I'm fine. What do you have for us in business today?
Well, yeah, some good news for people who are really suffering in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm talking about small businesses. The National Board for Small-Scale Industries has begun the disbursement of funds from the 1 billion cedi COVID-19 stimulus package to the first 1,000 applicants. Now, the stimulus package is aimed at alleviating the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has received some 500,000 applications so far since it launched last month. We've got more in this report.
Disbursement comes a few days after the National Board for Small-Scale Industries, NBSSI, announced a 6-day extension to the application process. Even though the disbursement has commenced, potential businesses affected by the impact of the coronavirus pandemic are still allowed to apply before the end of the extension day. Executive Director of the NBSSI, Kosi Yankee Aye, has been explaining the criteria used in the selection process.
We did an allocation based on population across the nation in terms of what percentages are in each region. Then you look at also those who are in productive engagement within those regions, in all the 16 regions. Based on that, we looked at a second one, which is those who are applying, percentages that are applying, right? And based on those percentages, you are allocated to various beneficiaries, since we wanted to showcase the process to you and show you the first 1,000 beneficiaries. We did the allocation of all the 16 regions based on the number and the process we wanted to show to you, which is those who within the first few weeks of the application had done it. And so that is exactly what we showed you. We showed you based on the numbers, those with the right information, those within the first month of opening the process had put in, based on the percentage, based on population census, based on productive engagement, and that is what you have. So that's how we selected it.
The funds, which are being transferred through the Ghana Interbank Payment System, is managed by telecom operator Vodafone. Head of Mobile Financial Services at Vodafone, Martin Obeyeje, has assured safety of the system.
The set of activities that we do is, because the system is not designed for people to defraud, what happens is that we pick the mobile number that was used to register. So the mobile number that you put in as your mobile money receipt number, we pick that number. We take that number into a central repository, which is by GIPS. And then we put in that number to verify whether your name, Kojo Mensah, plus the mobile number you provided is the same Kojo Mensah registered to that mobile number that is in the system.
The interest on the soft loan facility remains at 3%.
In other news this afternoon, Hollard Life Insurance has joined calls by industry players to extend the deadline for meeting the new minimum capital requirement for insurance companies. Now, even though insurers have up to June 2021 to meet the requirements, Director of Hollard, Nasiru Idrisu, says the effects of the outbreak should be enough reason for the NIC to reconsider that plan. We've got more in this report.
The impact of COVID-19 on the economy is unfolding with every passing day, and it's quite difficult to really understand the complete effect. The insurance sector is also impacted with premium collections falling, given the prevailing restrictions. It is for this reason that the Managing Director of Hollard Life, Nasiru Idrisu, is supporting calls for extension of the June 2021 deadline for meeting the new minimum capital requirements set by the regulator.
I think that Ghana is not in isolation as far as the impact of COVID is concerned. Other countries have started doing this already. Our regulator is very responsive, and already there are a lot of work going on now. And I believe pretty soon there will be some announcements to that effect here. Remember, we are a global giant, and we have the capacity, we have the pedigree to meet it. However, as I said, the COVID's impact is not just peculiar to Ghana. It's across board. Our regulator is listening, is watching and know what is happening. The extent that it's affecting businesses, they will definitely be responding to this appropriately.
He was speaking at the Hollard Morcom Partnership launch, which seeks to sell Hollard insurance products using the Morcom shops across the country as retail centers. Patience Achianu is Group CEO of Hollard Ghana.
With this partnership, many households who previously did not have access to insurance products will start easily being able to access insurance. And this will contribute significantly to the very low insurance penetration that we currently have in Ghana. And what this seeks to do is to provide insurance products across selected Morcom shops in the country via what we call Hollard on-the-go booths.
On his part, Group Chairman of Morcom Ghana, Bagwan Kupchandani, says the outbreak has rather had a positive impact on the sale of essential items at his outfit.
It's still a busy place. It's true, we are not selling very many expensive items, but in food and beverages, we are doing better than we were doing before. It's true, in some segment, sales have gone down. It's bound to happen. When you are not happy, you don't want to go and buy an expensive piece of electronic or furniture. You don't want to do that. You're not in that kind of a mood.
Nice, yeah.
That's very romantic.
Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
All right, and that's your business update for now. I've got some more in 15 minutes time on the market. Please do make a date. It's back to you in the studio, Ernest.
Thank you very much, Daryl. And I don't know if you're enjoying anchoring from home. How has it been like?
It's less stressful and easy. I can tell you that. I hope it continues for a long while.
Well, I can only imagine because I've had to be here. Thank you, Daryl, for bringing us the latest in business. It's now time for sports. Sports is next year on JoyNews today. Oreku is on standby with details. Oreku, take it away.
Thank you, Ernest. And up next in sports, we start off from some local stories where the Social Security and National Insurance Trust is threatening to take legal action against the Ghana Football Association after being shocked by the latest revelation made by the local football governing body. Now, 3 days ago, the GFA presented the data that is directly involved in the employment of over 70,000 Ghanaians that feed into the socio-economic architecture of the country. Now, according to the GFA, its competitions employ a total of 70,672 players, given the breakdown as 1,000 players playing in the Premier League, the Division 1 having 2,353 players, and then the second and third division having 43,700 players. The Women's Premier League has 600, and then the Juvenile League has 23,000. The numbers have left Senate shocked, according to the National Coordinator of the Senate Player Registration, and they are asking that the GFA produce their Senate numbers, else they should be ready for a legal battle. Now, he was quoted saying that we have written to the GFA to demand the data of all the Premier League clubs, but there was no response. We are happy they have released the data themselves. Hence, we'll go there with their own data to give us details for us to register them. We have registered only 15 out of the 18 Premier League clubs. We planned on going to the Division 1 clubs afterwards. And after the GFA released their data of employing over 70,000 workers, we were stunned by the numbers, hence suggesting they produce their own Senate numbers. He went on to add that we had earlier taken legal action against Ashanti Gold, which was later settled out of court. It's constant we will take legal actions against the GFA if they do not heed to our advice. Now, that was from the coordinator, the national coordinator of the Senate player registration. And Elisa, very interesting times, but we'll be bringing you the development of that story and how what happened between these two parties. But before we do go, there's a crunch tie today, and that is match week 31 of the Premier League. And it concludes with a big battle between Chelsea and Manchester City at the Stamford Bridge tonight. Now, both sides go into the blockbuster with a 100% win record since the lockdown, with Chelsea beating Aston Villa on Sunday and Man City winning 2 from 2 so far. Let's take a look at the vital statistics ahead of the Premier League clash.
How the wave is propagated and moves across that diagram. And the S waves, we see that the motion is up and down or transverse the direction of the motion of the wave. So P waves over here on the left-hand side, here's how P waves move, and over here is how the S waves move. We could also look at this. You can see that as the wave moves from the left to the right, it's moving by pushing. And we can see that although the material moves slightly, the wave propagates or moves from one end all the way across to the other, and there's just a little bit of motion in the material. Where the S wave, on the other hand, gives us something a little bit more of a up and down.
Well, Liverpool's 4-0 win against Crystal Palace yesterday, what that means is that if Man City failed to win tonight, Liverpool would be crowned champions in the Premier League for the first time since 1990. Interesting times ahead of tonight's matches. But thereafter, for the sports segment with me, Oreku Wampofo, back to you, Ernest.
And the Liverpool fans must be very excited about this, if indeed it goes that way. Thank you very much, Oreku. I know you've got some more sports later at 2 p.m. and it's now time for World News.